Good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I've got one housekeeping announcement. We will be raffling off something which will be a free raffle, which will be our online course. We're going to do it and choose the winner at the end of the day. The reason I'm telling you now is because we didn't coordinate everything. So some of you have something that looks like this and some of you don't. The raffle ticket is in here for you. So if you don't have one, raise your hand, and we've got a few people who are going to just pass them out while I'm talking. So just keep your hands up while we're talking. We're going to do that, okay? We're moving through the room now rapidly. It also tells you where our training programs are, but it looks like today is the housekeeping announcement day because of everything that was and wasn't done. Okay, so keep your hands up, and the people coming down the aisles can see you, and they're moving to help. Also, I'll pause for just 1 second while this is almost complete. In the front row? Yes, thank you. Very cool.
Got more?
No? Well, you'll need to share with... Oh, okay. She'll bring more. So when you come back in, tell me, and I'll tell you to raise your hands so your arms don't fall off. Which is rather unattractive. Not to mention, not very functional. Also today, I want to introduce you to Jillian Clear, who is my life partner, and she is the director, stand up, of Insight and Development of the Reconnection and Reconnective Healing, and Jillian will be helping us teach during the second portion of this. We are going, okay, raise your hands again, we're back with the flyers.
Am I your? Okay.
And we can see down in this front section here. Oh, all right, I guess she's going there and then she'll be coming here. Okay. I know that I was introduced just a moment ago as having had my near-death experience when my mother had hers. The only funny thing about that is I don't really recall mine. I do know my mother's, and I'll tell you part of why. When I was 5, my grandmother died. Anyone over here? Raise your hand again. Oh, you got it? Okay. When I was 5, my grandmother died, and I remember sitting in school thinking, what does that mean? Does that mean that there's a hole dug and you're placed in a box and you just lie there with your eyes closed, or worse, open, for the rest of eternity? What did that mean? And so my mother shared a story with me. She told me that when she was on the delivery table, she had had an experience. Now, how many of you here have had what's termed an NDE? Raise your hands if you have. How many of you consider that you like the term NDE, near-death experience? A lot less hands go up, don't they? How many of you say this was not a near-death experience, but that you actually died? Raise your hands if that's your belief. That was my mother's. She said, I did not have a near-death experience. I died. But what happened was, she was lying there on the delivery table. And I know everyone's story, especially the induction process, if you want to refer to it as such, is a little bit different. She heard motors, loud motors starting at the bottom of her feet. And she was looking around the room, wondering why no one else heard these motors. No one was saying anything. And at the same time, she was hearing a woman in the room somewhere screaming. And she was thinking to herself, gee, that woman is making a real fool out of herself. And then she realized that she was the only one in the room, so the screaming had to be her. And the motors went up to her ankles. And then they went up to her knees, and they became louder and louder. She was trying to get the attention of the doctors, but she couldn't. She knew that if the motors reached her heart, she would die. She didn't want to die. She was giving birth to her first child. But the motors did get to her heart. And she felt herself leaving her body and passing through what she would soon recognize was the first of multiple layers of, the only words she could think of were souls, people who had left the physical form. She said this first level of souls was the earthbound level. People who either didn't realize that they had died or felt that they had much to accomplish and were not ready to leave. Just did not know one way or another how to continue. The second level that she passed through, for some reason she doesn't recall a lot of. The third level, however, she does. She said that was the only level that was uncomfortable. It was the level of people who had taken their own lives. It was uncomfortable for those people to be on that level, and it was uncomfortable for everyone else passing through it. It was as if it was a temporary slowdown or a holding pattern. And she realized there that that was the only thing, the only real thing that we can do that would temporarily interrupt God's overall plan. She did feel quite clearly that these people will move on, that there's a period of time that was spent there. She went through other levels, and finally when she reached the top level, she found that she was on a path, like a lane. What she feels most people reference as the tunnel that they pass through. Without walking, she felt herself drifting and gliding down that lane toward a very bright light. Along the way, she saw beings, she saw people that she knew from the lifetime she was just leaving, and she suddenly realized that she knew them from many lifetimes. She saw that we see each other there as these souls without physical form, yet we recognize who we are. You know the truth of each person's essence. There are no lies, there are no hiding, there's a clear understanding. One look conveys volumes of information. on this journey down this lane,
Oh, okay.
she saw flowers of colors she had never seen. Whoops. All right. Can we help you find a chair? Can we help you to a seat? You good? Okay.
I'm not dead yet.
Well, but if you were, you could join in and help me with the story. You know, there's always a hidden benefit to everything. She saw flowers of colors she had never seen. She saw the people's faces, even though there was not physical form. Sounds contradictory. Guiding and encouraging her toward this light. She looked at the light and was afraid to look at the light because it was so bright she thought it might burn her eyes. But then she realized there was nothing physical to burn. And the light, that all-encompassing love, was just beautiful. And as she looked at the light, as she moved towards the light, she found herself being imbued with secrets of the universe. I believe the first insight that she recalls was that if there were only one thing that people who leave their body regret, it's that those left behind mourn them. Because we here don't realize what a beautiful place that is. That's truly home. She felt freed of all of her earthly obligations. Not that she wanted to be, but she felt freed of her earthly obligations. Truly free. She understood why the earth was round, why the sky is blue, why the grass is green. She understood creation. She understood how foolish it was for us to judge people, one another, by our appearance. She realized how there's nothing that we can blame God for. No matter how seemingly horrible of an atrocity it might be. Whether it's a drive-by shooting or mass murder or whatever comes to your mind that is the worst, seemingly most unforgivable thing. When we are there, we recognize that there is a reason for everything. And that everything makes perfect sense. She saw that we could release our fears of germs, our fears on whatever levels were going on. she saw that all communication was without language. And that as we look at language here as a way to enhance communication, verbal language, in a sense, is a barrier that we have to overcome. It's a separation. And as she found herself presented to the light, she clearly knew that there was a God. And her life was laid out before her in what some people refer to as a life review. And here comes the next seeming contradiction. She knew clearly it was a good life. And yet, there was no judgment. She experienced how she made people feel in their lifetimes, good and bad. That is, I guess, what you could call the heaven or hell, depending on what we make of it here. There was no heaven. And there was so much more that she doesn't remember, because what happened was she fell so in love with that experience. It was an experience of love beyond which we can understand love by our words. An experience we have no words for. She was in such a beautiful place that she had let herself go into that experience. And for all the struggling, is there an empty seat somewhere? Thank you. For all the struggling she did, not to die. For all the struggling that she did, not to die, she suddenly found herself being sent back. And now she did not want to leave. She knew the secrets to the universe, and she realized that she had rapidly been programmed to forget them. And on her way back, these secrets and insights were leaving her. She struggled to hold on to these. I will tell you, the first book that I wrote is called The Reconnection. The most difficult part of that book to write was chapter 2, where we talk about this experience. You know, I say in the book is that what my mother really didn't want to do after she died was come back to life. She found herself on a gurney being wheeled back to her room. My father was walking alongside of her. She said to him, "I now know the secrets of the universe. I'm going to tell them to you. I want you to write them down." And she did. And he didn't. Now let's go back for a moment to what I said. There's a reason for everything, and everything makes perfect sense. I will tell you the nature of my relationship with my father. I don't mention this in the book. The nature of my relationship with my father growing up was, in a sense, one in which I was deprived of the secrets of the universe. Intentionally, that was sort of his nature at times, to just not do something. I realize now that that wasn't a mistake. I realize that we are not here for the answers. We are here for the growth we gain from seeking the answers. It's our search for the answers that allows us to grow, not being handed them on a silver platter. She woke up again in her room. She looked at the woman lying on the bed next to her. And her immediate thought was, my, what an unattractive woman. What an ugly woman. And then she laughed and she said, didn't I just learn better? The woman said to her, you were reciting the scriptures in tongues. My mother does not know the scriptures. She didn't know the scriptures. She didn't know the Bible. She didn't know any other languages. She didn't speak in tongues. But you were reciting scripture in tongues. She knew she had died. She had asked the doctors about it and no one was talking. But there was a practical nurse. My mother said practical nurses at that time work in the trenches. Sort of, they're like the background. No one sees them, no one notices them. They're not invested necessarily in protecting anyone. You know, the doctors protecting the doctors and their stories. So she looked at my mother, when my mother asked what had happened. She said, I'm not allowed to tell you. All I can say is, you were very lucky. You were very lucky. She came out of that experience no longer having a fear of death. She knew it wasn't a dream. You don't wake up from a dream and lose a lifelong fear of death. There's a transformation that takes place. There's an insight, there's an understanding. How many of you who had, she calls it a life after death experience or a near-death experience, have part of you that wishes you were still there? Interesting. Because I don't really believe that there are any mistakes. I believe that we were given an opportunity, those who experience this, to see the bigger picture, to understand what's going on, to bring that wisdom, that temperance back here with us, to move further in this lifetime, which we can only do. Which we can only do if we come back. We can't do it if we're there. Excuse me 1 second. I don't know why I'm having trouble telling this story, but I am. point here for me to get is what Diane said. Maybe I had my own life after death experience, and I don't recall it. Maybe part of me misses that, like you who raised your hands. How many of you who came back from a near-death experience found that you discovered gifts about you you didn't recognize before? Well, maybe that's part of what happened for me. Because I was always at a loss for what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to be. And finally, at a certain point in time, I discovered the principle of chiropractic. In very simple form, we have a brain that changes shape and becomes the brainstem and the spinal cord and the nervous system and travels throughout the body. It moves through the spinal column. When the vertebra and the spinal column are out of position, that somehow or other, depending on your school of thought, interferes with the communication between the brain and the body cells. So the body cells and the organs become sick or healthy, depending on whether the communication path is open or shut down. And if we remove the interference, we get out of the way, we allow the power that made the body to heal the body, and that sounded good to me, and I decided to do that. It was about that quick. I heard the philosophy from a chiropractor, I went home from the visit, I called the school, I applied, and I got accepted. It was that quick after a lifetime of not knowing what I wanted to do. Of going to undergraduate college and changing my major whenever I couldn't figure out what my major should be. I went from pre-law to something else I can't even remember, to modern dance. I mean, I was all over the place. But I became a chiropractor. I liked the philosophy. It was simple, it was natural, it was helpful, it was powerful. And somewhere in my 12th year of practice, a few strange things happened. A lamp next to my bed woke me up in the middle of the night and turned me on. Or it turned itself on, I should say. It didn't turn me on. It was the lamp. I mean, fetishes are good in their place, but really a lamp, it turned itself on. And my bedroom door, which was closed when I went to sleep, was now open. And I felt people in my home. Of course, I wasn't thinking people on another dimension. I was thinking people, like someone's in my house. So I got up and I got my hands on the largest knife I could find. An old empty can of pepper spray from a self-defense course I probably took 15 years earlier. And my Doberman Pinscher, who intriguingly enough was more nervous than I was. And I searched through the house, I couldn't find anyone. I went back to sleep, feeling that it still felt as if someone was in my house. And I'll tell you something else. I'm what some people would call OCD. Unless they were really OCD, and then they'd have to alphabetize the letters, but that's another story. Should think about that, right? CDO. The windows were locked, the doors were shut, the toothpaste cap was screwed on, everything was clicked into place, everything was where it went before I went to sleep. And the lamp next to my bed was the usual kind of lamp that we have where, you know, you reach up and there's a little round button and it clicks on or it clicks off. Well, when I went back to go to sleep and I was about to turn the lamp on, or turn the lamp off, I reached up to that little button and I rotated it. It was not clicked on. It was not clicked fully into its position. It was rotated, but not all the way into place. And I knew right then and there that was certainly not me. And I had an opportunity right there to respond from a consciousness of fear. Meaning to just pull the covers up over my head and ignore the whole thing. But there was something awesome and exciting about it, which overrode any tendency for fear. And it's easy to confuse the two. You know, standing in awe of something we don't understand can feel a little bit like fear if we don't pay conscious attention to it. As a matter of fact, the translation, how many of you have heard the expression in the Bible translated into English, God-fearing? Who's heard the expression God-fearing, right? You know, that's a mistranslation. Do you know the original word that they take fear from was norah? The original Hebrew was norah, which on a base level can mean bad or terrible, something fear-related. But on its highest level, means awesome. Interesting how the translators went for the base level, which allows us to search within ourselves as to whether we're comfortable on that base level of fear, or whether we're compelled to recognize a truth within ourselves to drive us into awe and wonder. Maybe there was a familiarity about it for me that I didn't have consciously, that allowed me to leave fear and to go into awe. But when I went into my office on that Monday, my patients started having interesting healings. Unexpectedly, when I held my hands near them, they felt multiple sets of hands resting on different places in their bodies. When I moved my hands, I was feeling sensations in my hands, and I held them near them, and I pulled away. The feelings in my hands became stronger. Their eyes would rapidly dart back and forth and back and forth. Muscles would pull at their eyebrows and their lips. Their fingers would start to move. Arms and legs would change, jump up and down, sometimes in sync with one another, sometimes in patterns. When they opened their eyes, they said they were seeing colors they had never seen before. Just like the experience my mother had. I said, because I was so analytical, what colors were you seeing? What colors were you seeing? And they said, well, I was seeing purple, or white, or gold. I said, well, how can you call it purple or white or gold and say you've never seen it before if you recognize it? They said, I can't tell you. You just have to see it. Because let's face it, who can describe a color to someone who's never seen one? You just have to see it to know you've never seen it before. I remember there was someone involved in color animation at Disney who went on trying to describe how he couldn't describe the colors. They saw shapes, they smelled flowers, and they started having healings that we, in common vernacular, might start to refer to initially as miraculous. Patients who came in wheelchairs, some of them were walking. Patients who couldn't see or hear were able to see or hear. Not every one of them, but a significant amount. Children who were having multiple seizures a day from epilepsy, or when were unable to walk, stand, talk, move their hands from cerebral palsy. Suddenly were not requiring medications or physical therapy any longer, weren't having seizures, were able to run and play, speak normally. Now, I didn't have this conversation with my patients. The truth is, what is it when we fall away from perfect health? Is it that something in our inherent design is off? Or is it possibly that something is just a blockage or an interference with our natural design to regenerate and reorganize? My patients wanted me to teach them how to do this, and other people would call. And I said, I don't think it's teachable. But it is. I was nervous teaching it. I didn't know what would come about. But I found that it wasn't so much a teaching as it was a transformation that took place when we shared our essence. There was an interaction that would come about. It's hard to find the perfect word. You want to say transference, except it didn't go just from one person to another. You want to say it was a transmission, but it wasn't something linear that went from point A to point B. Was it an activation? Maybe in a sense. But what were we activating to? Our truth. What did we experience in our NDEs, in our life after death experience? Our truth. What might we have been being challenged to do? To bring our truth back and live it. But not from consciously having been shown the answer sheets up there, but from being shown enough to know that when we get back here, we have to look for those answers. We were shown enough to know that the answers exist. Now, with that impetus, we have to hold ourselves to the standard of finding that. Whose life have you changed since you've come back? How many of you feel that in sharing stories or insights of your experience that you have had an impactful effect on the lives of others? Tell me. Great. That's part of our purpose, to impact the lives of others. We will later on play with what science today calls the reconnective healing frequencies. I had to give it a name. We call it reconnective healing. I did not intend to give it a name. I said it had no name, because when you give this name, you place it into a box. You say, this is what it is, and everything outside the box is what it isn't. And there were two things I clearly knew that I didn't know. I didn't know what it was, and I definitely did not know what it wasn't, because my understanding of it continued to expand. Every one of us in this room is special, and the reality is to truly be as special as we can be individually, we have to recognize that therefore no one is special. I've been invited to speak because I have a big mouth. And I've affected a lot of people. I can honestly say here, as big as it sounds to say this, since Reconnective Healing has come about, it has affected the lives of tens of millions of people in different ways. And I'm not more special than you. Now, maybe part of my experience is to be here to inspire you to say, how many more lives can I affect? Your gift is different than your gift is different than my gift is different than your gift on one level, and on another level, it's all the same gift. We will, after the break, play with and feel these frequencies. There is scientific research documenting that these frequencies have already changed in this room. According to Dr. William Tiller, who's famous for the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy, which talks about healing that takes place at speeds higher than light. The energetic level in this room has already transformed to a temperature equivalent, not a temperature, but an energy temperature equivalent, the level of what he calls excess-free thermodynamic energy in the room has changed to a temperature equivalent of 300 degrees centigrade, or 572 degrees Fahrenheit. I look at you in this room, and I feel as if I'm in an interdimensional classroom of teachers, students and teachers, and whoever the overall teacher of the room is pointed to me and said, today, it's your turn to stand in front of the class. So be careful, tomorrow's yours. Tomorrow's yours. And that we're here to wake each other up, to see that we're teachers. We can't sit quietly on our stories because we're worried about how we might be judged or seen. We can't sit quietly on our stories because we're worried about how we might be judged or how we might be seen. I've lost friends. Professional friends became angry at me when this first came about. And I gained new friends. I've had ups, I've had downs, I've had roller coasters in my life. And I've had communication. I've had communication. There are others right here with us. There are others. Call them who or what you will. Guides, angels, extraterrestrials, guardians, call them this, call them that. I think that we are all just, I like to use the word people, we're all on a continuum of evolution, on a spectrum, on a facet. And maybe some of us, it's like we're looking through, remember those paintings, did you ever see those pictures that you can stand in front of the picture and if you look at it just the right way, your eyes sort of defocus a little bit and you go in and you can see something else? That's sort of what we're here doing in life. We've been living one focus. And if we let ourselves defocus a little bit, we see a little more. And some of us see Pleiadians, or angels, or Arcturians, or whoever. And we think, oh, I must be a Pleiadian, I must be an Arcturian. And all we have to do is let our eyes shift another way, and we see more, and shift another way, and we see more. And we find out that we're all these things at once. We are everyone, and everyone is us. Ultimately, we're a light, placed here so that others can better see. Ultimately, you're that light, placed here so that others can better see. I'm looking at you. Because you're all so focused. I'm looking at you because you're all so focused. Because you're all so focused and I'm so honored. I came here without a script, clearly. Because I thought a script would be unfair. I felt a script would be unfair to you. I realize now that a script would have been unfair to me. I have discoveries to make. You're the forum. I can't tell you here. I can't give you your answers. I think that as we journey together during this discussion, I may be triggering a few questions. That's all right. As we said earlier, we learn from the questions more than from the answers. When we come back from the break, Jillian and I are going to tell you a little bit more about what Reconnective Healing is, and we're going to share learning how to feel it. What are we reconnecting with? Wasn't an NDE a reconnection? When people who experience reconnective healing, if they've had NDEs, they often say, I'm feeling that light again. Others say, I'm seeing it. I feel happy in my heart. In my experience, I saw this, I smelled this, I felt this. I wasn't awake, I wasn't asleep. I was somewhere more real. We're going to share that somewhere more real. By the way, during the break, if you want, look out at the room, or when you walk past the door, we'll have people at the doors who will have these for you. If you didn't get one, please get one. I'll tell you what, because your question is what everyone probably has a question of. If you want, why don't you come down the center row? Is that all right? If you want, and you've got your raffle tickets, just pass them into the center aisle. And someone's coming down, and then that way, you know, you've got them collected. Are you the only one with it? Oh, there. And you can do it that way. Meanwhile, I've got a question for the room. Okay. Hold them up a little bit so that Ginger can see where she's going. Otherwise, she doesn't know where to walk. But she's working her way down. Question is, what is healing? In a sentence or two. What is healing? Who would like to offer an answer to what is healing? Okay.
Releasing the blockages.
Point the mic towards you.
Releasing the blockages so the energy can flow through.
And you hold that elegantly. That is good. Releasing the blockages. Very nice. Here you go.
Love.
Love.
Good. Okay.
Good answer. Restoring yourself. Restoring to your divine self. Restoration to your divine self. Anyone else? Strong voice? Give it to me.
Healing is the opportunity to understand the difference between separation and knowing that you're whole, even though you may feel separate at times.
Very nice. Healing is the opportunity to understand the difference between separation and knowing that you're whole, even though you may feel separate at the time. That is really, really beautiful. I love that. I love that a lot. Couple more? Anyone?
There's no wrong answer.
Feeling there are no wrong answers. Here you go.
Point it towards your mouth.
Helping the body heal itself.
Great. Helping the body heal itself. Anyone else want to offer? Yes?
Using our highest essence and our most pure energy and bringing that through the human body as powerfully as we can.
That was very good. Also, we're doing great here. You know what I'm not hearing? What we're not hearing is getting rid of an ache, getting rid of a pain, fixing a problem. Thank God that we are moving beyond that limited aspect of healing. Healing, we have been viewing from the microscopic, you could say, if you want to. We have been viewing it as regaining the use of an arm, or a leg, or a liver, or a kidney, or vision, or hearing. And the truth is, healing includes that. But healing is our evolution. In all arenas, not just physically. Of course, also emotionally, and we know this, and spiritually, and we know this, and mentally, and we know this. But we don't always project ourselves into the larger picture of how that manifests. It manifests itself for us as having, for example, relationship changes and evolution, career unfoldment, abundance in our lives, abundance of health, abundance of love, abundance in prosperity, in friendships. Life, progress, and evolution is what healing is. And it's very common that we might hear someone say, oh, Reconnective Healing, I don't need any healing, nothing's wrong with me. Well, already what's wrong is, that's a terrible thing for me to say, and I didn't say it. But if I did say it, I might have finished it by saying is that we're missing the point that we're all here for our evolution. We're all here for our evolution, and we all can benefit from evolving. Every day. Every day. I would love to hear that I evolve every day.
And you are.
And I am. And I'll have to trust you on that. Hear that sound? Hear this? That is passive listening. We don't have to do anything to hear it. Don't confuse listening with its limited interpretation, meaning hearing a sound. How do we hear something? We receive. We receive vibrations when we go to a concert in the ear that is transformed into what we interpret as music, for example. Listen in the room for a moment. Keep your eyes open. Trust that you can do more than one thing at a time. Keep your eyes open. What do you hear? You hear the fan. Okay. You hear a cough, you hear the fan. You hear me. I hear you. Okay. That's us listening just a little more actively. Feeling and listening have a fascinating dance of interplay and interaction. I want you to listen to whatever that sound was in the room that you heard a minute ago. Listen to it for about the next 6 seconds. And when I say stop, I want you to freeze in the position that you're in. Whatever angle your body is in, whatever angle your head is in, whatever direction your eyes are gazing off into. So just listen for the next 6 seconds now. Freeze. How many of you notice that your head is tilted one way or another? Raise your hand. How many of you notice that your eye gaze is not straight ahead, but it's left, right, or up or down? What you're doing is you're listening more actively. You are accessing a part of your brain that allows you to become more aware of sound. Sound being vibration. I want you to remember that feeling when we listen. As a matter of fact, let's do it artificially. Let's reverse the process. Everyone, tilt your head one way or another. Take your eyes and gaze off in one direction or another. Up, down, left, right, wherever you want. Listen to that sound one more time in this position for the next 6 seconds. Listen for depth, harmony, texture. Good. How many of you heard more of the sound this third time we just did it than you listened, than you heard before? Raise your hands. Because you see, what happened was, the first time we did it, we listened passively. We didn't invest consciousness or awareness into it. I made a noise, I clicked my finger, I hit the microphone. We just heard it loosely. The second time, we listened to it more actively, and our head tilted one way and our eyes went off another way, because the function of our body was to listen more, so our structure shifted to allow it. Structure followed function. But function can follow structure. So if we're not at our most aware point, we can shift our structure, tilt our head, angle our eyes, and what we know is that accesses different aspects of awareness in the brain for us.
Most of us spend what I'm going to say is our daily life in a passive listening body. We are very routine oriented, and that's not really entirely just our sort of organic decision-making process. Your world is organized to adhere to steps and procedures each and every day from the moment you wake up till fortunately, the moment you go to sleep, where maybe the body just goes off duty for a little while. We hope. And all that lucid, beautiful dreaming, which is really the core of your essence, where your wholeness is, where the vitality that you are indeed a vessel connected to everything in the universe and to one another, for all of the psychics and mediums in this room. Every one of you is a psychic and every one of you is a medium, and it really is just a matter of your degree of awareness. And this is an important thing to remember. We often allow our body to lead. And when the body leads, the brain is extremely obedient. Your brain will produce a chemical exactly at the same time, reminding you it is time for coffee. You do not need to remember that it is time for coffee, because the chemical is light years out in front of you by hours, getting ready to remind you it's coffee time or bathroom time or whatever it is that your body is very comfortable with. And so really, we don't create a lot of new movement or creation or activity. And often we're so unaware of it that our entire life can pass, and really what may seem like a new day every day is really not much of a new day. And that includes our pain, and that includes our frustration and our anger and our joy. It's a very programmed, very obedient structure. So it's important that we are aware that actually we are energy. We are not physical form. You are mostly energy, interacting in a field of infinite information that you are receiving and transducing into what we'll call your very busy boardroom, the mind. And so this is just a little touch of what we want you to kind of think about, because when we meditate or when we actively listen, we're actually turning off the part of the brain that is in auto cul-de-sac circling, and we're allowing the frontal lobe and other aspects of where we really receive information when we listen to music to begin to filter through and produce the chemicals that actually redirect the vehicle. This is the vehicle, this non-physical, incredible machine, God-given machine. But when it gets too far in front of us, then we disconnect. And what we're going to play with a little bit, because reconnective healing is rooted in what science has now determined a new energy, light and information interaction on this planet. And as Eric mentioned, we have a lot of science that shows this room has already started to entrain with this frequency. But what we want you to do is tangibly feel it and tangibly play with it so that you can do what we do. And this is all we teach in Reconnective Healing. We teach you how to be one of the greatest observers. We teach you the art and artistry of witnessing. And we teach you what an experience is. So when you learn Reconnective Healing, you are not coming to learn how to do anything. You are learning how to become something. And actually, it's becoming what you already are with that added part that is highly necessary in your human daily life, which is the awareness of it. So the frequencies are very powerful. Yes, we see instantaneous healings. No, we do not teach you the epigenetics, nor do we teach you the components that brain training will teach you. And I am highly grateful that for those, I would say about 30% of our students are mainstream medical doctors. The rest are just humanity coming from all walks of life. But I am excited that we are living in a time right now where neuroscience and epigenetics are studying NDEs. You know, you have beautiful neuroscience, you know, incredible people like Dr. Evan Alexander, who is looking at what is a near-death experience. Where does it happen? Is there even really any such thing as death? Are we all just having our own near-death experience right here? We don't know, but we're peeking in with a whole new level of curiosity. And I will say that there was a time, and forgive me for the doctors in this room, there was a time where you just were told to go see a doctor no matter what your problem was. You don't get to just go. You don't have to understand anything. Just go. That's what they're trained to do. And you went to the best doctor, not just any doctor. Then we had the internet and technology, and knowledge became kind of available. Now, that didn't really lend itself to us saying, oh, well, now I'm accountable because actually I might be able to figure out a little of this on my own, but at least knowledge was available, and it was available to everyone. Then YouTube came along, and it was like, wait a minute, I can actually watch the YouTube video and it's going to tell me exactly how to do this, including having a near-death experience you can watch on YouTube. There isn't anything that you can't learn, really. And what I think it's done is it's waking us up to say, I can actually be curious again. There is something in the curiosity of actually learning how to do something to become it rather than just do it, right? So this is an interesting intersection, and we're very fortunate to be living during this time. That's my personal opinion. Reconnective healing is a little tricky. It's super simple, and it just takes you from being one thing to something else. So it's sort of after epigenetics, it's sort of after the neuroscience. It is what we call, it's a bit of a happening. The science reveals that you will experience gamma brainwaves. That's where your brain will be. You will have a mystical experience. It doesn't matter whether you know you're having it or not. But we are not going to be able to help you to then kind of walk through the steps and procedures of how to keep your body in balance with what your brain is telling it to do or not do. But what we can do is give you a sense of what it feels like to be extremely connected to something greater than yourself. We'll say it's the intelligence of the universe. We've talked a lot about that. I'm really comfortable with God. That's just my particular point of view. Love. Another really perfect example of what you're going to play around with here. So God, love, the universe. Let's keep it in those three beautiful things. Vibration. You will move from particle to wavelength. You will experience what many people don't particularly think is all that special, but I'm going to say it's a very important part, which is coherency. Because when you're in a high state of vibrational coherence, harmony, balance, ease, grace, clairvoyancy, all these things become available to you. So there is no one special, and while we refer to them as gifts, because I think this God-given thing we move in is a gift, the gift is each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. So to the degree in which you are, as Dr. Pearl will always say, willing and able to explore your gifts, that will be the opportunity to yield what you may call results. We'll call it coherency, balance, harmony, life progress. And
we're going to learn how to be instead of do, which makes some people not very happy. Because for a lot of us, our left brain feels unsatisfied, not satiated enough until we've learned an endless number of steps and procedures and techniques to be doing. And so, we're glad that people offer you steps and procedures and techniques to be able to get to a certain level. But in order to get beyond that level, we have to let go of the steps and the procedures and the techniques. There are, let's just use this analogy, 2 ways people tend to learn how to ride a bicycle, with training wheels and without. Some learn without. Great. Many of us learn with. How many of us learned with training wheels? Okay. When did we receive the true gift of the training wheels? When they came off of the bicycle. Right? Up until then, great training wheels, but the gift was waiting for us to remove them. And some of us learned without having to go through that process. So we get to choose what makes us feel better. I'd like to go a little bit back and just talk about the field for a moment. Okay? So when Reconnective Healing first appeared, the researchers came out to study it. And they said, we seem to be finding aspects of light and information in this field we haven't witnessed here before. And I asked them what they meant by that, because that was a pretty strong statement. They said, well, it makes sense if you understand 2 basic concepts. The first concept is that we live in this huge, vast, endless, beginningless, multidimensional, infinite field. But we don't occupy the whole thing. So imagine that there's this huge bubble or balloon in the universe, and humanity exists within that bubble or balloon. The outer part of that balloon, the part that you could feel if you were holding a small balloon, is comprised of our 4-dimensional existence of height, width, depth, and time. Height, width, depth, and time. That's the outside of that bubble or balloon, let's say. And the inside is energy. As we've learned, everything here has been energy. Your energy, your energy, your energy, the table's energy, the floor's energy, our clothes are energy, the difference between our heart and our lungs and our liver, our kidney, are different resonance of the energy. How many of you practice what is classically considered to be an energy healing technique? Who does an energy healing technique? So a technique is what? A focal point. We focus in on different aspects of the energy through different techniques. There are many forms of just Reiki itself, and Qigong, and Jinshin, and Jorei, and Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, and quantum this, and that, and the others. So one technique shows me this beautiful aspect of the field, and one technique shows me this exquisite aspect, and something else shows me this wonderful aspect, and we keep learning our different techniques. But what the researchers explained was, when Reconnective Healing appeared, there was no technique involved. There were no foci to tune in on. So, we accessed the entirety of the energy field. And that was step one to the gift. That was the first level of accessing the gift, letting go of technique. You could say letting go of technique was the technique. But the gift that came after that, after accessing the entirety of the energy within our four-dimensional bubble or balloon, came because today we know that time is moving what? Faster, right? Today we know that time is moving faster, not just in a linear fashion from point A to point B, but we know that time is moving faster in all directions at once. So time is actually expanding, which means our bubble or balloon of existence is opening up and expanding. And what happens when a bubble or balloon expands? It becomes more thin, before it explodes.
Think about when you blow up a bubble if you're chewing gum.
Yeah, it becomes more thin, more sheer, more permeable. In essence, it begins to disappear. So A, time is moving faster. Which leads us to B, time is expanding. Which leads us to C, time is disappearing. And D, what Einstein had been telling us since the 50s, time is an illusion. Time is an illusion. So we are learning how to become the timeless beings that we are. What has been within our bubble, our four dimensions? Energy. As the bubble or balloon began to become more thin, more sheer, more permeable, and disappear, we've begun to interact with what's been outside of time and space, outside of the bubble. Aspects of light and information that have existed forever, but aren't old because they didn't exist within time. So they were new here. This is us stepping into a greater newness of ourselves, or an accessibility, a newness of accessibility to one another. So we are now accessing a field of what science calls the Reconnective Healing Spectrum, which is comprised of not just the energy that's been here, but energy, light, and information. Light plays an important role in its vibration. I mentioned before something that sounded complicated. We talked about Dr. William Tiller and the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy. Oh my God. Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy. Can't even say it that fast. But break it down for a minute. What does Tiller mean? William Tiller. What does Einstein mean? Albert Einstein. What does model mean? Well, hey, it's a model. What is entropy? The tendency for things to fall into disrepair, disorganization, degeneration, or what some might call chaos, which is really not chaos. It just looks like chaos because we don't understand it. So what's negative entropy? It's the opposite of entropy. Regeneration, reorganization, order. In other words, what the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy shows us is that once we pass the speed of light, degeneration becomes regeneration, disorganization becomes reorganization, dis-ease becomes healing or ease. So these aspects, new aspects of light, and the information with it tends to allow for healing or reorganization. And we become more aware of it by placing our awareness or our attention on that, which is what I believe we're about to do right now.
And if you were in a neuroscience classroom, we would say, okay, everybody, now turn to the person next to you and explain everything we just told you about.
But we won't.
But there is a part of that that is very important, which means that when you create knowledge in understanding something, you have the capacity to turn it into knowingness. And when the knowingness appears, your chemistry starts to produce a variety of different chemicals that tell you that you are in an understanding of something new. And this is important. So we're not going to do it here. But when you come, should you decide to learn this work, there is a certain amount of this that you innately will begin to digest. But I think what we can do is give you a kinesthetic, sensational or sensorial exchange. An expression that you can play with when you go home. It's not going to leave you. Anybody who doesn't want this to be a part of their cellular, vibrational, biophotonic light structure should leave now, because we can't take it back. Okay?
Once you know something, you can't unknow it.
Once you know, you know. And then comes in a little piece of accountability, like our millennials who, since we tell them there is no such thing as time, and that they live in space-time, which is all an illusion, they feel great about coming to work at 12 in the afternoon. And when we say, where are you? They say, but there is no such thing as time, you see. So there are some terrific things that are deconstructing the way we're going to move in the daily sort of paradigm of our life. This is a moment where you can explore a little bit of it, and we'll, I think, answer hopefully some of your questions after we play a little bit. But again, we'll just keep it real short and simple. Okay?
I'm gonna try. I'll dance back and forth between this mic and that. If you look at me, if you can see me, when my hand falls, it falls into what's called normal anatomic position of the hand, which means my fingers are in approximately a 60-degree arc. There's a little bit of space between them. What I'd like us to do, and I'm going to stand here so I don't have to hold this microphone, use this microphone.
Then you sit up a little bit and just let your hands fall. Yeah.
Just sit up in your chair. We want you to just feel as best as you can what happens when you just sit and let your hands fall. You don't have to do anything.
It's hard to let your hands fall in the position that these chairs are in because they're so close to each other. So that's why we're showing you. But if you want, drop your hands if you can, and you'll notice they fall into that position without you giving them much intention.
What we don't want you to do is, we don't want you to do this. This is prayer. This is yoga. This is what we've been taught to do, and it's beautiful, but it's not normal anatomic position of the hand, and we are not going to do yoga right now. So, yeah, feel where they fall naturally. Some people will be like this, some people, just let them fall naturally, and we are going to ask you to keep your eyes wide open. We want you to use all of your God-given senses.
So let's try a way to get you into this position, which I think might be easy. Is imagine for a moment that you're holding a basketball on your fingertips. Feel the weight of that basketball. I want you to feel the weight of the basket. And keep your eyes open. Always, always, always when we're working today, let's keep our eyes open. It's a good enhancement of our awareness. You don't need to shut off one of your senses in order to find another one. Feel the weight of the basketball resting on your fingertips. I want you to feel the weight of that basketball because our response to feeling the weight means that we're slightly tightening the muscles in our hands or toning them, and that's key, that's important. Imagine, for example, that you're a drummer. How do you tune your drum? Well, you usually tighten the skin, because the tighter the drum becomes, the more naturally the vibration spreads. So hold the muscles in your hands a little crisp and firm and tight, so that the skin in your palms is kind of tight and you can feel more. And I want to play a little bit of a game. Now, a lot of these things some of us may have done, and other things others of us may have done. But remember, the transformation we're going through is because of the transformation that's already happening in the room. So it's like, now we've got different water in our plumbing, and we're changing our plumbing. Imagine that there's a rubber band attached, and keep your eyes open, a rubber band attached to the center of our left palm and the center of your right palm. And I want you to gently pull outward and stretch that rubber band. And allow yourself to feel, just outward, not in and out, just outward. Pull the rubber band. What happens to that rubber band? The further we stretch it, the more strongly we feel it pulling back in the opposite direction, right? Stretch the rubber band a little bit. Now, move your hands a little and feel how, when you slightly change the direction of your hands, that rubber band sort of changes its intensity in its pulling. Okay, you have that? Good. Pull and stretch. Stretch a little further out and a little further out. Great. Now we're going to change. Take your left hand, turn it palm up toward the ceiling. Imagine a dinner plate resting on the fingertips of your left hand. Look down, see that dinner plate, and around the outer lip of the dinner plate, visualize the numbers 1 through 12 as if it's a dinner plate turned into a clock. Just like Jillian's doing right there. Take your right hand and hold the center of your right palm over the number 12. Again, challenge yourself to keep your eyes open. With your right hand over the number 12, observe whatever sensation you feel in the center of your right palm. You don't have to be moving your right hand. Let the sensation just arrive. Eyes open, 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 open. Just because you don't see me doesn't mean I don't see you. Okay. Now, glide your right hand and place it over the number 1. If something could possibly, this is just an if question, if something could possibly feel different in your right palm when you're over the number 1 than when you're over the number 12, ask yourself, look for what that subtle difference might be. And then gently glide your right hand until it's over the number 2. And feel. Notice and feel. Glide to the 3. Pause, notice and feel. Some numbers, the sensations may feel stronger than others, some weaker. Glide to the number 4. Some the sensation may push or pull or feel colder or warmer. Move to the next number. Pause, feel. Glide back to number 2. Does that feel different than where you were? Okay. Continue from where you were, one number at a time, until you get to the 12 again. Just hold, pause, feel, and what is feeling? It's listening with another sense. You are keep your eyes open. You're actively listening. Continue. And continue. And once you get to that 12, go backwards. Go counterclockwise for a moment. Go to the 11, to to the 10. And observe. Some numbers felt stronger and some felt weaker as you went clockwise. Do they stay stronger, the stronger numbers, and the weaker numbers stay weaker, or do they change for you? Just observe, notice what you're experiencing.
Go to the number 4 on the clock. Find 4. Turn your hand over. Go to the number 8 on the clock.
Now divide the 4 by the 8. I'm kidding.
We really want you to find, as you're moving from one number to the other, are there, for some there will be, others there won't be, what is the difference in the vibrational sensation, kinesthetic sensation that you have as you move around these numbers? Go to the number 11 on your clock. Find number 11. What is the texture of 11? How does it feel in your palm? Is it more electric? Is it cooler? Is it warmer? Go to the number 3. Okay.
All right, let your hands down. And how many of you felt a difference between the numbers as you moved around that clock? How many of you felt that the difference remained the same clockwise or counterclockwise? Some of us. How many of you found that it was different? Most of us. It's different each and every time. What's the expression? You can't dip your toe into the same river twice because the river is always moving. At the moment, it is your awareness, it is your essence, it is the field that's always changing. What we're listening to, what we're tuning into and not tuning into. What I like to do sometimes in presentations, well, we have mobile chairs as partner up, but that's going to be a little awkward for us here, so we're modifying what we're doing a little bit to work with you. I'm about to take us into something else. Are you warm?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's just me, it's not the room.
No, I was just wondering, how many people are warm? Who's warm in the room? See, it's not just you. But the room is not warm. How many people are cool? Yeah, the room is actually cold. So this field, yeah, but then what's actually doesn't mean anything to anyone when you're warm. Shake your hands out for a second. Normally I wear a microphone, so I've got 2 free hands, so that's why I'm dancing back and forth.
No, let's do, I'm going to do magnets. I think it's going to be demonstrate too.
Okay, so let's bring our hands up, and just watch Eric, he's going to guide you. Bring your hands up into that wonderful, toned feeling, and I'm going to say pretend that you have an 8-month-old infant that you're holding in between your palms. So you're holding them, and some of you need to feed your 8-month-old infants.
Holding them by the rib cage.
So you're holding them by the rib cage. Feel the weight. Feel the weight of your 8-month-old infant in your hands. Okay? And what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to feel what is the space, information, and vibration in between the palms of our hands. So why don't you go ahead and navigate that, and I'm going to talk as you're demonstrating. Does that work for you? Mm-hmm. Magnets.
All right, so we've got that awareness. Now, disappear the infant. No, don't drop it. Just disappear the infant. And now imagine that there's a powerful magnet inside your left palm and inside your right palm. What I want you to do is not pump in and out, but slowly pull As the positive and negative magnets are pulling your hands in, I want you to slowly pull out against that attraction. And notice that the further you stretch the magnet, the more strongly you feel the magnets are trying to pull your hands back to center. Keep your eyes open, eyes open.
Slightly move the palm of your hands, not in unison like that. Feel for what you're feeling in between both palms.
Here, so in other words, with the microphone, slightly move your palms around a little bit. Feel for what you're feeling. And notice how the magnetic charge or field changes as you move your hands a little bit.
And pull. Distance creates a stronger relationship in reconnective healing than traditional energy. So you want to feel as you pull. And you want to keep your fingers firm, and I want you to watch your fingers. I want you to look for what we'll call registers in your fingers, involuntary movement of the fingers as you begin to pull these magnets apart from one another. Really allow yourself, you don't need your imagination here. Feel. We know what you're playing with. So pull.
But pull and stretch.
Pull and stretch. Pull and stretch. Okay. I think what we'd love to do is for some of you, we're going to bring you up here and we're going to have you work with one another so that some of you can observe and some of you can play. So I want to have you come up because you're about to observe a kinesthetic interaction. Do you want to come up? Sure? Yeah. Come on, John. You want to come up? Good. Come on up. Okay. So Eric, I'm going to have you guide them through an interaction with one another so we can watch what happens with the reconnective healing frequencies when somebody's cells are what we'll call in register.
Okay. So let's face each other, if you can.
You're going to vote?
So, what's your first name? Elaine, you're going to face Adam.
Angle them so each side of the room.
Okay, great. Adam, turn a little bit this way, just so the room can kind of see from this perspective or that perspective. Now, the person, decide quickly who's got the shorter hair.
Between the two, who has shorter hair?
Okay. Person with the shorter hair, take one hand, hold it out with your fingers open. Just one hand.
Just like
That's
this.
all you'll be using. And open your fingers a little bit. Person with the longer hair, you're going to open your fingers and raise your hand up this way. We're both going to watch the fingers of the person with the shorter hair. We're going to keep our muscles strong and toned in our hands, long hair and short hair. Longer hair person, imagine that your hand is a knife gliding through freshly baked bread. Feel where it's easy, feel where it resists. Watch the hands of the shorter hair person, feel the air. Feel where there's more density or less density. Keep your fingers strong, really strong. Watch his hand. Notice when your sensation changes as you go down, as you go up. Adam, hold your fingers open really strong. And let's watch Adam's fingers. Watch every once in a while his ring finger jumps a little bit, or the middle finger. Just focus there. And keep your fingers strong and clear. Adam, when we do this, you feel nothing or you feel something? Okay, good. Elaine, let your hand down. Adam, for you, I want you to trade hands. Open strong. Elaine, this hand. Now keep the muscles strong and firm. Just the way I've got it. Perfect.
You're about to witness love.
Glide in here and feel.
John, what are you feeling? Anything at all? Good.
There's no sensation, there's some sensation. You're not sure. If you were sure, what might that feel like? Maybe what?
John, what are you feeling? Even this far away, huh?
Not sure?
On this side.
Heat. Maybe a heat. Now, what I want you to do, Elaine, is pull as if that's a magnet and stretch it out. Watch his hand. Keep your eyes on his hand. Imagine a magnet here and here. Pull and stretch. And now, Elaine, just wiggle the fingers of your left hand a little bit. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and
Good.
down.
Now watching here. You watching?
Okay.
Look at it go.
Not a whole lot of interaction here. I'm going to reverse it for a moment.
Good. Step
I'm
even
going to have
further
you open
back.
your hand
Now
here.
watch Joan's fingers.
I'm going to have you open your fingers there. And we're going to watch
You can
Elaine's
see
hand.
Joan's fingers. They're starting
you see that
to do
movement?
funny little things. Now, there you go.
There.
Now, you
See
put
how Elaine's fingers
now
start to
you're
move?
having fun, right? Good.
Now pull and stretch further away. Elaine, are you moving your fingers or are your fingers moving themselves?
The other hand. Slow down, don't miss it.
I'm not doing anything. And she doesn't plan to either, if you can see the expression in her face. What do you feel when that happens?
Come all the way here.
Yeah.
I want you to put your fingers, and I want you to bring out like little lightning bolts coming out of your
What are you
mouth.
feeling? A slight pull towards his hand. It looks pretty more than slight.
Open them up again. Good.
All right, I'm going to let you sit down and we'll talk about this.
No, they get to switch. I want Joan to try this. So
They
very
switched it.
quickly, we want you to watch what it is a very normal, common interaction. Would you like to play with her hand? I'd like you to. Okay? And this is a wonderful opportunity. You receive now. We're very lovely also.
So I bring it down like it's going to bread or butter.
Exactly. And just receive and feel, but real slow. Real slow. There you go. And just feel what you're feeling. You're not sending Tiffany anything. You're just receiving and playing. And Tiffany, you keep your hands reeling, fingers nice and wide for her, and use your eyes.
Just watching your finger.
Yeah.
Watch your fingers, use
Watch
your
hand.
eyes.
Watch your hand. When you feel something interesting, all we want you to do is just sort of pull back and take some aspect of that sensation with you. Because what happens is there's a three-way interaction here.
This field of information is fascinated by the fact that Joan is selfish enough to just receive and not send. And the second thing she's curious enough to do is just observe. She's just observing Tiffany's hand while receiving. And then she is brave enough to have her own experience. And the more she is willing to do that, Tiffany becomes a wonderful particle for this intelligence to entrain with. So it is a three-way dynamic that is very, very simple and profound, and it allows you to become the coherency of that bandwidth while sharing it with anything and everything you are in contact with, we'll say. Reconnective healing is a very contagious bandwidth, very contagious in that sense.
Says it's very contagious. And what we're going to do, we're going to do something now that we can each do in our seats that's going to heighten our awareness of this. But first, you had something to say?
I just want to say this is very similar to partner dancing.
It's very
Partner
similar to partner
dancing.
dancing.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, you do a lot of exercises like that. You communicate movements.
This is similar to partner dancing as you communicate movements. Okay, well now we're going to do solo dancing. Are you ready? So I have to stand back here again so my hands are free. What I'd like you each to do And some of us might want to modify this ourselves if we're not able to function this way or not, but for most of us, I want you to take your right hand, hold it up by the side of your head, and imagine that your right hand is a satellite dish. I want you to take your left hand and imagine that it's floating on the surface of a very buoyant salt water. Good. So both hands are in position like this. Take your satellite dish hand and slowly, a millimeter at a time, start to adjust the satellite dish hand as if you're refining in a signal that might be coming from trillions of light years out into the universe. Keep your hands crisp. Fine-tune that signal just a millimeter at a time. Get that sensation about as clear into your right palm as you can, keeping your eyes open. It's part of our learning. And then hold your right hand, your satellite dish hand, hold it still. With your left hand, sort of as if it's floating on the water, with a small, slow, circular refining pattern, try to refine a sensation into the center of your left palm. Eyes open, yes. And when that sensation in your left palm feels fairly strong, hold your left hand still as well. Good. Raise your satellite dish hand up an inch or two. Start to refine the sensation in your satellite dish hand. Millimeter at a time, slow movement. But while you're refining the satellite dish sensation, place your attention into your left palm. You might begin to notice that as you're refining the satellite dish hand, your right hand, the sensation in your left hand is adapting and adjusting and changing, becoming weaker, becoming stronger. Hold your satellite dish hand still now. Refine the sensation in your left hand. As you refine that sensation, as you fine-tune the sensation in your left hand, place your attention in the palm of your satellite dish hand. See if the signal intensity in your satellite dish hand is changing. Now this is a lot for us to learn in one afternoon because we don't really have the benefit of spending time and taking you to massage tables as we do in the training programs where we can really learn and practice this. But it's a really interesting beginning. It's sort of the first time I've done it this way in this kind of a group, so now you have to give me feedback. So let your hands down, and here's what I want to know. How many of you were able to feel in one hand what the other hand was doing? Raise your hands up high. Everyone else look around the room. Notice that it's not 100%. Notice that it's a very significant number of people. This is the beginning of a learning process. It's the beginning of a learning process. Now place your attention in one or both of your hands right now. How many of you still feel sensation like what we just played with in your hands? Raise your hands up. Look around the room, look around the room, look around the room. Something is transforming, something is changing. What I would like to do for a moment is along the lines we've been talking and teaching, staying here, not questions such as, you know, I've got this problem and my niece has that problem and what can I do for it? But along the lines of what we've been talking about, teaching and playing with, in the healing, in this healing realm, who's got a couple of questions? I'd like to get a slight sense of who some of us are here. So raise your hands if you do. I'm not a psychic, so you have to raise your hand. Here we go. Number one.
I hope it's okay to ask this, but I took a class from you 8 years ago, and I have been wanting to ask you this. How has the reconnection changed? Has it been evolving in any way in 8 years? Is that a fair question?
Sure.
Okay. Sure.
If we don't evolve, we die. Everything has to evolve. Evolution is not necessarily changing, meaning that something was black and then it's purple or white. It can mean an expansion. So, how has reconnective healing and the reconnection changed? It's continued to evolve and reach higher, more expansive levels on the planet. One of the examples I use is that if you learned it 15 years ago or 8 years ago, it's like walking into a pool that's filling with water. If you step into the pool in the beginning and the water is only up to your ankles, that's where it is, and the other people coming in at the same time, it's up to your ankles. You step in a year later, it's up to your knees. Who's the new person who steps into the pool? Do they start at their ankles? No, it starts at their knees too. The pool has expanded. A few years later, you jump in, the water's up to everyone's chest. So it has continued to expand, and the teaching of reconnective healing has continued to expand as we've been able to observe more of it and understand more of it. Does that help you? Good. Questions about healing? Okay. Pardon me, I might come to some of the easiest people to reach first.
Have you or can you teach these techniques to children?
Children learn reconnective healing very, very, very easily because they don't come in with an investment in knowing it all or being right. And that's really the truth. Children just reach the truth of who they are fairly easily. It's as we get older and we forget that, we start saying, this is how I can improve it, and this is how I can make it more about me, and now I can add this, and I can add that, and I can add the other, and children understand the simplicity of instantly becoming. I saw a hand here. Okay, coming to you.
So we do this exercise. Can you fill in the bridge from this exercise into how it translates to reconnective healing of the body, mind, and spirit?
Part of what's happening here is we're sharing with you a little bit of dipping your toe into that water. You know, when we teach reconnective healing, it used to be a 4.5-day course. There was level 1 was Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Level 2 was Monday and Tuesday. And there was a lot to do in building and teaching and awareness and exchange. Now what's happened is we've taken the level 1, we've put it online. So Jillian and I are teaching, we're taking you through feeling, sensation, exercise, understanding, philosophy, science, and that's what you learn first. As a matter of fact, that's what the drawing is for. One of you will win the online level 1 program today. That's what gets you ready, so when you decide to take the rest of the program, what we call the ONE program, observe, notice, and experience, you're already, when you arrive for the live teaching, up at a level of understanding and experience. You're already experienced in a certain way. When we're here, I think it's 8, 9, and 10, or 9, 10, 11, or something of November, in Chicago, we're going to be teaching it live here. But for many of you, you might choose that you want to do the online program, and that's all you want to be for a while. You'll probably find that you want to do more with it. For others, you'll do the ONE, the whole program, and you'll do that live. What it is you're actually changing your DNA. Interesting concept. I want you to know that I was afraid to say that in the beginning. And when I wrote the book, The Reconnection, I told myself there were 2 things I was not going to talk about, and one of them was the DNA, because there was no evidence, and any scientist I spoke to didn't want to talk about it. Now we know that it's changing. We know from the work of Dr. Fritz Albert Popp in Germany, for example, that the DNA in each of your cells and its given levels of light, we mentioned that. When our health is diminishing, that light is measurably dimming. When our health is coming back up, that light is coming back up, and it's becoming more coherent. and more harmonic. And as we vibrate at a higher level of harmony, it's shared with the rest of ourselves, it's shared with the people we interact with, and it's shared with the people we're not even there that we're interacting with. And something happens that our densities, our interferences, our health challenges, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, life progress challenges, tend to have almost nothing left to hold on to at that higher level of vibration. So the densities fall away, or what we can say more metaphorically is that we vibrate at a higher level of truth, and our untruths tend to fall away. And that's key in what we're dealing with. Does that sort of help you? Good. Okay, way in the back of the room. Make me run up. Okay. Concise, quick. We're going to sit right in front of you. Excuse me. Here you go.
My question is, are you teaching us to sense our sensory experiences in a three-dimensional way when you're teaching this training?
We're doing nothing in just a three-dimensional way. Because we're living four-dimensionally, at least. And that in itself is a minimalization, because we're really existing multidimensionally. So we are learning to become more aware of ourselves, but more aware of everyone else simultaneously, and there's a change. You know, when we experience something, I'm watching our faces, and we're thinking, and we're experiencing, and we're nodding, and we're talking, and we're gaining insights and understanding. And then when we do that, everything we experience, everywhere we grow, everywhere we expand, changes one proton within one atom within you. And the information and the insight within that one proton is shared with every other proton within you, and it's shared with the proton of the person you're sitting next to, and it's shared with the proton of the gentleman over here. And it's shared with everyone else on the planet, and it's shared with every proton in the universe. How many of us are familiar with Nassim Haramein, or you might call him Nassim Haramein? Nassim Haramein is a voice today in quantum physics that expresses it in everyday common language, so it doesn't have to be something that only researchers understand or physicists. And so we expand, as we expand in our awareness, in our consciousness, in our learning, everyone expands in their consciousness, their awareness, and their learning, and every proton in the universe expands. And so our desire to learn, your questioning itself, is responsible for the continued expansion of the universe. That's how powerful you are. And you are. We think, how many of us, grew up and our parents said, oh, you're too curious for your own good? The truth is, yeah, your parents, right? The truth is, it's our natural design. Just like the natural design. Why do we have a drive? Why do we have a sex drive? To procreate, or we wouldn't all be here. It's part of a natural, intelligent design, and so is our curiosity. So is our curiosity. Who else? Okay. Running to you. Sort of running. Here we go.
I got a two-part question.
We'll start with the mic closed.
Oh, I got a two-part.
Start with part one concise.
First part of the two-part question is, I forgot the question. Can you do this on yourself? And is the effect of, second part, is the effect of being the healer person greater for the person that's doing the healing or receiving the healing, or equal?
Yes, you can do self-healing. Thank God we can do self-healing. And that's part of what we teach you, how to do self-healing with Reconnective Healing. Is the effect greater on the practitioner when you work on someone else than the other person? The book is called The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. Because in the process of facilitating healings for others, we are accessing our own healing. What is sometimes a common misunderstanding that we often hear? Do I have to heal myself before I facilitate healings for others? If you wait until you're in the perfect space to facilitate healings, you've lost all those opportunities to help other people, and you've lost all those opportunities to help yourself. This is very important understanding. Good question. Good double question. Okay, here you go.
I'm not quite sure how to phrase this.
Do your best.
The quality, and I hate the quality of the person doing the healing, but the consciousness or the kindness or the love which this person expressed before, does that affect the healing? And should you have someone at a lower vibrational frequency working on you?
The person's intentions that are facilitating a reconnective healing session are of no moment in the equation. Okay? This is an important distinction. Someone who is facilitating reconnective healing is stepping in as a receiver. They are receiving the frequencies. Okay? Their ability to be able to observe you. What are they observing? They're observing your interaction with this intelligence, not their interaction with you. They become a part of an equation in the exchange of energy, light, and information. But you are not receiving their energy. There is no sending. So a good person, a judgment, a bad person, what the character of a person isn't what is going to determine the healing that you receive in reconnective healing. And I know this is really a different paradigm because we're so used to looking at good energy, bad energy. Someone filled with light and angels, and someone who's filled with darkness and dread. Okay, so we don't take on bad energy in reconnective healing. It isn't a part of this paradigm, and maybe it is because it just is an it factor. So the it, as my incredible foundational practitioner, Virginia Beck here refers to as what you experience. And actually, Virginia, why don't you come explain this? Virginia is and actually the doctor here at Evanston Hospital used to have the pleasure of Virginia running her medical practice. That is what she did. She could run 3 countries. But she left that lovely doctor because, as she describes it, she touched the it. She touched the poke of it. So in reconnective healing, as again, you are interacting with an intelligence, the intelligence of the universe, maybe all there is. So as a facilitator, what does that mean? It means you have chosen to step into that equation to receive these frequencies, and you have decided that you're willing to reveal your soul in the room with another and simply stand in the presence of something greater than you, determining what that person needs. And that's a big piece of this. You don't determine, we do not determine what a reconnective healing client receives. They will come in and they will tell you everything about their life. And we will smile, and we will tell them to lie down, close their eyes, and experience what they experience. And then we will receive. We will play with these frequencies and allow that person to have the healing that is appropriate for them. And this is not just a spiritual concept. This is actually a scientifically measurable exchange. So you don't have to worry about taking on bad energy, low consciousness, low vibration in reconnective healing. We just don't have that dynamic.
Understand that light is neutral. Light is neutral. We assign it as good or bad, positive or negative, according to how we interpret that it should be. You know, there's something in the book called Solomon Speaks that says, there are only a few who dare to open their eyes. and many who do are blinded by what they see. The truth is, the light is neutral, and we decide whether to allow the light to illuminate or to blind. But when we step out of judgment and we just witness and observe, we find that the healings are always taking place in the most exquisite fashion, and if we're lucky, they happen in the form that we think they should and want them to, and if we're truly, truly, truly fortunate, they come in a form we have not even dreamed of. Do you want to speak with Ginger?
Did you ever hear the sound of a candle lighting another candle? Right? You don't see a candle lighting another candle, taking on darkness. You see one candle lighting another candle, igniting the next candle, igniting the next. Inspiration. That's what you see. Do you walk in a room and say, "Where's the dark switch?" I'm sorry, I'm looking for the dark switch. We have created the concept of darkness in the incredible engineering of parts of our brain that have created an emotion which produced a memory, which told your body to produce the chemical of fear. And I am so sorry to tell you, but it is so exactly that mechanic that once you get your arms around that, and that again is where epigenetics and neuroscience can help you a lot right now. They've made it really like neuroscience for dummies. You know those books, Everything for Dummies? You can learn any, like we're the dummies. You want to pick that up. You want to understand what fear really is. You want to understand what disease really is. So we don't, we're not really instructing that part of it. We want you to play with an it, because it is an it, and it doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. It doesn't care whether you're hopeful. It doesn't care whether you have intentions that you keep in a little box. It cares very much where your attention is, with a big fat A. Because where your attention is, energy follows every time, and it is incredibly obedient. But your hope, your faith, your belief, that is a different lecture. It's a different gathering here for us. And that's why near-death experience people enjoy this incredible man here. Not just listening to him, because Eric is that frequency. That was probably one strange night in that book you may or may not read. That was the gift that allowed the beginning of what I believe humanity now is imbued with cellularly to actually happen. So you're leaving here today with it. It is a part of you. There is more, and you may say, wow, this has been really fun. Please do observe what may be a little different for you than when you first arrived here tonight. It may be very profound, it may be very subtle. Some of you may leave here with profound healings that you're not aware of. Go get your CT scans or your MRIs or whatever it is. Some of you probably came here hoping that there would be an opportunity for the great Dr. Eric Pearl to do a healing on you. But you see, you're doing the healing on one another. You are becoming the healing itself. And that is what you learn when you come to learn Reconnective Healing. And it is not esoteric, but it is spiritual. And it is God-given, and it is big, really big.
You are part of a process. You are part of a process that's coming in great scope. And none of us, myself included, fully understand that scope. Ginger,
Well, we have one question.
Oh, we have one question, sorry.
Hi, I have a two-part question. I'll make it short. I wanted to know whether when there's healing on something physical, whether there's an emotional reaction afterwards, like a day or so. Do people go through some kind of a clearing? Or do they have to struggle with, releasing some kind of emotional, whatever came up to receive that healing completely?
Okay.
And my other part of the question is, I'm a therapist, psychotherapist. Can this be done on emotional things besides just on physical healing?
Okay, well, it's really sort of the same question. Because, and Ginger, you can, This is reconnective healing, it is not reconnective treatment. This is reconnective healing, it is not reconnective therapy. This is reconnective healing, it's not reconnective cures, because treatment, therapy, and cures focuses on a symptom and or a minimized specific area. Healing brings a wholeness of balance, which includes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It includes the lessons. It's not an aspirin to get rid of a headache. It's not ultrasound to stop an injured knee from sending signals up to the brain so you think you're better because the pain has stopped. It's easily confused with that because it affects the entire iceberg, which includes the 10% at the top, the symptoms. So when everything returns to a state of balance, the symptoms signaling the problem go away, and we think that it's the same thing. And they don't always go away. It depends on what form the healing is most important for you, but it doesn't cheat people out of their lessons in life. If you receive a healing, you've been granted permission by an intelligence that understands that lessons may be a part of this as well. So we don't say this is for a psychological problem, and this is for a physical, and this is for an emotional. It's about stepping in, finding the frequencies, feeling them, and allowing them to return that person to a greater level of balance and wholeness, and then we see how it manifests as appropriate for them according to a more greatly orchestrated intelligence. Thank you.
How do you follow that? First of all, who am I to stand before you with your stories? I'm no one. I'm just Ginger, Virginia Adams, who used to run medical practices, who loved doing that. But as Jillian alluded to, I was touched. And it's a long story, and you've heard lots of stories today. But once I was touched, something released in me that I can stand here before you today and talk to you. I couldn't have done this ever. I mean, ever could I ever stand in front of you and say, I've been touched. But I have been. And so now I have to tell you the story. I have to look at each one of you because I know my worthiness now. And I'll cry over that one because who doesn't struggle with their worthiness in whatever they do? Why is my story more worthy than your story? Why is my healing more worthy than, why is me as a practitioner more worthy? We're all, one thing that we're touched with, or I was, and I see others touched with, is reconnecting to, remembering our worthiness in whatever aspect, whatever we're doing in this world, we become that. And it doesn't happen, or it could happen instantaneously, but for me it's been this process that brings me before you here today saying, I have a story. And my story is, I laid on a table, not knowing I was going to get a reconnective healing, struggling with stepping into a mandate that I had been given. And I know some of you understand that sometimes knowings, or you've been touched and you've been told to do something, but you're afraid to do it. Maybe a medium told you, who knows? You searched for it and it came to you. And mine was Heal the Healer. I didn't know what that was. I was a practice manager. I supported healers. I supported clinical staff. I made sure things were safe. I was your advocate. That's what I did. You came to the offices that I worked at, and I made you feel like you were okay. I made sure that the staff was being nice to you. Got your insurance correct, got your demographics. And I was the one, when you were complaining and not so happy with this, that listened to that phone call. I was a great de-escalator. That's what I did. But I was not a heal the healer type person at all. I did have my woo-woo spiritual side. But I was trying to step into that through different ways, and I won't go into that. But my niece, who's here with me today, came from Utah. I laid on her table, and I didn't know that she did Reconnective Healing. But I laid on her table because she said, let me try, and I'll do mine, and you can do yours. I didn't have flashes of light, and I didn't see any new colors, and I didn't hear, see. I don't even know if I had registered. She probably saw registers, I don't know. But I got off the table, and I knew that I knew that I knew that I knew that something had changed. I can't tell you what changed. I can't tell you what it looks like. Can't even tell you what it feels like because I don't have words for it. But within a short time, I was sitting in front of someone who's here today, looking at her and saying, with tears in my eyes, that I can no longer do this. There's something bigger, and I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I stepped away from a career. I've been able to step back into it, but in a completely different capacity. Really, 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 really cool is I manage my own practice. I never imagined, I never thought about supporting myself in my own practice, but I do that. How did I get here? How did I get here in front? How did I get to a place that I'm speaking after Dr. Pearl? I was going to say something. Holy heck. How did I get here? I don't know, but I can tell you it has something to do with the frequencies. It has something to do with reconnective healing. It has something to do with the day that I laid on that, but it also has to do with something that's really, really important. It has to do with saying yes, because each and every one of you have been touched today. Whether you want to admit, whether you felt it, I know, again, that I know that I know that I know that you've been touched. It takes great courage to step out of the distractions of this world, to know it. You all have stories like they talked about before. It takes great courage to go out and disregard what this world might say about you. I'm sure there's a lot of the community that I used to work with that thinks I'm absolutely crazy, had a midlife crisis, and jumped off a cliff. I don't know what they think of me, but but I can't stop telling the story. I can't stop telling you that there's something within this. There's an it factor that some people already innately are more connected to than others, or remember, not more connected, remember better than I had remembered. I say it in a way that is very Christian-based, but it doesn't matter what walk of life or where you come from. And the way that I say it is that I grew up in Utah, a Catholic. I'll just let that sit with you for a second. And, which was unusual. So we were really tight-knit in our community. And something that I did, which is unusual, I hung out with nuns a lot, but is I read scripture, which again is an oxymoron, Catholic, Utah, reading scripture, Catholic. It's not all against what you usually would do, but I did it. And there is a scripture that always fed to me, but it fed to me in different ways at different times of my life. And that particular one is one that I now embrace. And the way that I can say this is, I touched the cloak. It was me. I touched it. Somehow, some way, there was the first word that comes is transference, but it's not the right word. Receiving does it, but again, it's not quite receiving. I became what was passing past me, what touched me without touching me. I became it. I remembered it. When I, as a practitioner, and I have some other ladies here today that are practitioners, all we do is we just receive, we just stand there in the it and let it do for you. somebody asked me, and I want to stay integrate to what I said, I promised I would tell you where the training is in Chicago. And it is in the Chicago area, and it's going to be November, and this is the immersion. This is after if you did the online and then you wanted to come to what they used to call level 2, but it's the immersion, and it's going to be in the Holiday Inn Mart Plaza, which is Wolf Point Plaza. I have no idea where that is right now. It says Chicago, so I'm assuming it's within the Chicago limits.
Just downtown.
It is downtown?
It's a
Okay.
merchandise mart that's on top.
Ah, well, looky there. It's Merchandise Mart. Everybody knows what that is. That's from around here. And it is going to be from November 9th through 11th. One thing that I did notice as I was looking this up on the website is through March 31st, you can purchase the combined, which would be the online and the immersion as a discounted, and that goes through March 31st. But if you're like passionate, you got to get there faster than that. There are some other locations in the United States, or as Jillian said last night, go on a trip. Go out of the country and go do this. How fun is that? I tend to like to go away from my home place, so I would typically go away so that I could actually spend that quiet time with myself in my room at nighttime just to absorb. But LA is going to be the first place that it'll be here in the States, then Orlando, and that's in May. Orlando is in August, Denver in September, and then Chicago in November. And again, people have been asking about who in the area are practitioners. Again, there's 2 sweet ladies that I met in Detroit over here. I don't know if there's any other practitioners. I just saw somebody raise their hand. I haven't met them, but they're here. We're here. And we're going to pick a winner.
I'll tell you what. I will.
Thank you.
Diane's going to pick the winner. I just want to say one thing to each of you right now. You have all, we have all in our own ways, touched the cloak. We have all said yes, even sometimes while verbally saying no. That's why we're here. What are we going to do with this? Will you do us the honor of selecting a winner for the online level 1? That's all right. Anyone you want. Okay, here we go. We have 2. We're going to have 2 winners. Okay. Twins. We're twins. Howard Reisman. Congratulations. And Steve Shapiro. Congratulations. Congratulations. So we'll release. And okay, so your mark those as winners. And I know someone who has a few closing remarks and some comments you'd like to make.
First of all, thank you so much.